Hey there, and welcome back to another DreamWorks video. And a while back, we learned that there was going to be another continuation in the Kung Fu Panda franchise, Kung Fu Panda: The Dragon Knight, an upcoming Netflix animated series. And I was tentatively excited. On one hand, I really like Kung Fu Panda, and on the other hand, I don't think this is the kind of thing people expected or honestly wanted out of a continuation. Like I've seen a lot of people say online since the trailer dropped, why didn't they just make another film instead? Anyway, like I said, recently we saw the trailer release for The Dragon Knight, and yeah, the response seems a bit mixed. On one hand, people like Kung Fu Panda, it's popular, it's fun, and it usually churns out some pretty great content. But on the other hand, it shows probably the weaker point in comparison to the films, and this one doesn't look to be the exception to this rule. And honestly, on my first watch, I already had a couple of problems. And we'll dig more into the plot in a little bit, but first, I'll just start with these first impressions. For one, you can really tell this is a made-for-Netflix animated show. The quality is just not up to par with previous installments. The animation does not look great. It's kind of stiff and it's janky. And I realize the budget for this series is clearly going to be lower than if it was getting a theatrical release, but Jesus, is this really the standard they want to be setting right here? What? It's night and day. And I realize that the older Kung Fu Panda shows also don't really look all that great either, but I guess I was hoping they'd be improved upon, or at least it would be assigned a little bit more money into the budget so it doesn't look so undercooked. If this was some new franchise, or being fronted by a new studio or something like that, I think I could look past it. I could say, oh, they're just getting their start, or they don't need to waste their money on that type of thing. But for a big company like DreamWorks, those sort of excuses dry up really fast and no longer make any sense. Seriously, there's one shot where Poe's screaming and his mouth full of noodles flies everywhere, and they're swaying in the breeze, but they're just so stiff and robotic, like they're not even cooked. It just looks really bad. But it doesn't just look bad, it also kind of sounds bad, as in my opinion the voice acting quality in the trailer is also quite poor. And we'll start with Poe. On the plus side, they've gotten Jack Black back for this, which is good. Nobody can do the Poe voice quite like him. But on the other hand, this performance is not as upbeat and vibrant as it's been in the past. It's kind of like he's phoning it in a little bit. And don't get me wrong, he's still probably the best in the trailer, but honestly, that is not saying much. The rest of the voice cast, it just leaves a lot to be desired, especially the villains. Man, after having such well-voiced villain characters up to this point in the films, hearing the whiny weasel voices is so jarring. And it's not just isolated to the villains. It's everybody. It just doesn't sound impressive. It all feels cheap and like it's been phoned in. And it has me worried for the release, if I'm being honest. And then the last thing I want to address before I go through the scenes from the trailer would be the distinct lack of Furious 5. Basically, it's the Poe show with a couple of new characters, but his longtime allies are nowhere to be seen. And yeah, whilst Poe is ultimately the hero of the story and is the one that saves the day while the other characters slip into obscurity for the final battles of each of the films, they all still have a role to play most of the time. And I think not including them, even if you couldn't get the actual actors back for the show or just couldn't afford them, and I mean, surely they could have got alternate voice actors, it's just a mistake. I just think they're such an integral part of Poe's story. And they add a lot of different dimensions and potential storylines and character interactions. And I get that they likely don't want the show to feel cluttered, but this comes at the cost of the show feeling like it's removing all the elements that make it interesting and unique. I mean, maybe they do make some sort of appearance, but if they're not in the trailer, you kind of have to assume they probably won't have a massive role in the story. But anyway, with all that being said and all those general problems with the trailer addressed, let's jump into some of the scenes. And we start off the trailer with a few establishing shots that are in the classic Kung Fu Panda style, there to hype you up, mostly close-ups of Poe with his battle face, and yeah, right from the get-go, you see that problem with the animation quality. And maybe it sounds a bit spoiled, but we really should be expecting more from the big studios. I mean, there's one shot in that opening montage where Poe's walking past some farmers, and the quality of the grass looks like it's out of Hoodwinked or something. And that is among the cheapest animations of all time. And that was made over 15 years ago. It's not a great comparison to have for a show releasing in the 2020s. And then the next thing we see is a random village getting attacked by the weasel bandit people and getting destroyed. And so I guess Poe's back to being super clumsy and useless. I know that's been a bit of a fixture of his character since his inception, but by the end of the third film, wasn't he Oogway level strong? Am I supposed to believe that these random bandits are going to pose a credible threat to him? This guy who's taken down Kung Fu gods and tanked getting shot with a cannon, he's going to lose to these dweebs with a magic gauntlet? Nah. And I'm guessing his mistakes lead to them getting the weapon and destroying the village, and so everybody blames him, and the Emperor removes his title of Dragon Master because reasons. I mean, literally every other major kung fu warrior, besides Oogway, failed. Why is Po getting a hard time in this show? Shifu literally trained Tai Lung, who ended up destroying a village, and nobody seemed to care. Oogway and Kai were best friends. Once again, nobody cares. I find it hard to believe the Emperor would care that much that the Dragon Master failed to save one lowly village. Like, I get the villagers being mad, but the rest doesn't make sense. We then get introduced to Luthera, the Wandering Blade, a random knight from England who DreamWorks decided needed to be included in this. And I'll be real, I have no interest in some medieval knight turning up in my kung fu story, but okay, I guess this is happening. Oh, and look, she's conveniently a bear, so we can have an attempted romance storyline and not have people be grossed out because they're completely different species. I mean, at least they're both bears, I guess. And what do you know? She's looking for the Dragon Master, and is shocked that it's Po, and honestly, I'm sick of that joke. At a certain point, wouldn't everybody who tells the story know that he's a panda? So if you asked, who's the Dragon Master, or where's the Dragon Master, they say, look for the only panda. Like, I get he doesn't look the heroic type, but she clearly knows he lives in this village, so why wouldn't she know that he's also the panda? The only panda in town. Anyway, we also learn that the weasels are in China to collect the 4 Tangshan weapons, which they'll apparently use to destroy the world. Anyway, so they're apparently crazy serial killer types on a Thanos-like quest. Okay. Seems like a bit of a boring conflict, but yeah. Oh wait, no, later in the trailer they say they're going to build an empire using the weapons. Okay, so world conquest. Very original. Also, if the weapons are so powerful, why would they just be out in the open like the glove at the start of the trailer? I mean, it's literally on the roof of a building. Lock that up. Jesus. Oh, and apparently there's yet another villain, described as the weird cloaky guy. And I'm just going to guess he's actually going to be a secret good guy or an anti-hero. I don't know why, but I just feel it. So yeah, based on this trailer, it certainly looks like the majority of the story is going to revolve around Po and Luthera traveling around chasing down the weasels and running away from Cloaky Guy. And honestly, the plot doesn't seem super inspiring. And it's truly been ages since I felt so unhyped and negative about something, but it's just how I feel. And so that's the end of the trailer and the end of the video. And I would like to say that these were just my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the trailer? Like it, hate it? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.